I just want to say thank you so much for being here. I know I've seen so many of y'all on stages like this, and it's really fucking surreal to be on the other side. And a little terrifying, but thank you. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I'd always kind of envisioned it as a book, but I often am like an idea person and not an execution person very often. And it's like, oh yeah, one day. And then fortunately through Radio Free Brooklyn, who shout out to Radio Free Brooklyn who are here tonight. Yes.
Yeah, shout out.
Very appreciative, check them out. I met a photographer who was also a publisher, Ben, and can we give it up for Ben at Lit Riot Press really quick?
Yeah, Ben!
Thank you so much. Literally would not be here without you. But yeah, and we were just chatting. He was like, oh, have you thought of this being a book? And I was like, yeah, you know, down the line. And we just had a series of conversations, and then I was like, oh, wait, this is actually gonna be a book. And then I had a series of like freakouts, like lying on the floor in my apartment, like, I can't do it. And then, a couple days later, I'd be like, I can't do it. And then he kind of talked me through that panic, and then I signed a contract, and turns out the best way to get something done is being legally obligated.
Wow.
But really, thank you.
That's how things got kicked off. But now let's go back in time a little bit to the early days, the formation of Sam Sumpter. And because in the early part of the book, I'm not gonna give everything away, but deep diving kind of in like, your early years, you weren't a huge music aficionado. You were not the person that we see fully formed here today. You were, you're from Texas, right? From Austin?
Yeehaw. I yeehawed like everyone's post on Instagram. Yeah.
It's our favorite cowgirl over here. So you're from Austin, and then during college, just not a big live music fan, and then after college, that's when you started really turning a page and really seeing this evolution and finding this newfound passion. Can you just tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I'm losing a lot of street cred here, but not that I have any, but I potentially had. It was just kind of like not my thing growing up so much. I was kind of I played soccer. I was like digging through clearance at Abercrombie & Fitch, watching Lizzie McGuire, playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, living my best life. And then I don't know, I went to school in Austin, which is the quote-unquote live music capital of the world. And after I kind of got through the 4 years that were focused on like 6th Street and way too much Captain Morgan and that whole life, I like literally lived in an apartment called University Estates. So like after breaking out from that college bubble, I just kind of discovered again, like a decade after, I feel like most people, at least after most people here, kind of discovered live music, besides like the Britney Spears concert I'd gone to in like 5th grade and like All American Rejects one time, and I just fell in love with it. And I kind of just, outside of the influence of like, the people that I grew up with or, college, which I had like my friends there, I just found what I loved. And it's like brought the most amazing people into my life and the most amazing experiences, and music fucking rules.
Music fucking rules, yeah. The tagline.
Yes. She's articulate.
So obviously this kind of like, this thing clicks for you in Austin, and then you find yourself in New York for a job, and once you're in New York, you live in Crown Heights, right? You start in Crown Heights. When was the first moment that you're like, hey, I love music, I want to get involved in this scene that I know nothing about? Like, where did you find that kind of this bravery to kind of venture out? And, once you kind of ventured out, what made you wanted to say, hey, I'm going to start Bands BK. This is an idea, I'm going to go forward with it and to see where it goes. Like,
well, I was doing a lot of writing back in Austin. My background is in journalism, and I was doing a lot of freelance. And then I moved to New York, which I was like so stoked for, because I'd always wanted to live here, like for as long as I can remember. But I like no longer had those outlets, so all I had was my day job. And I remember like going to bars and people would be like, "So what do you do?" And I'd be like, "Oh," and it's like it sucks to like not have a good answer to that, and it sucks to have something that you're not passionate about. And I was kind of like directionless. And my friend kind of told me about So Far Sounds, which shout out because there are some So Far people here. Woo! I don't know. Are y'all familiar with So Far Sounds?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, for those who are not, it's fucking incredible. It's basically intimate shows in secret venues. They're in 300 or so cities around the world. They were doing like 80 shows in New York every single month before the pandemic, like in living rooms, in bars, in furniture stores, in boutiques, and you never know who you're gonna see. You sign up, you go, and you see 3 artists play like really intimate sets, and it's just a really cool experience. And I volunteered with them for a while, and that introduced me to just kind of the music scene. My eyes were open to, I mean, I knew, but also just how many incredible, talented people there are. And I was meeting them and working with them, and I just wanted to get more involved, and then it kind of just, snowballed from there.
I'm going to paraphrase here some of them, I'm just going to shorten them, but according to 6 degrees of separation theory, any 2 people on Earth are 6 or fewer acquaintances apart. However, when it comes to the Brooklyn music community, I wager it's more like 1.5. Brooklyn is a beautifully tangled web of wonder and weirdos, a community packed with people who are constantly creating and collaborating. I still haven't quite mastered the ins and outs of artistic incest responsible for this twisted and tangled family tree. However, I do remember the exact moment this particular slice of the scene first snapped into focus for me. You mentioned Art Wickley and the Dirty Jers Fest.
Dirty Jers.
I get one little shout out here where you look to the left and it's Rich from Bloodless Management, where I was so happy when I was just like,
it's like, look, it's Zach from Smog. Hey, it's Rich from Bloodless Management.
Because I've seen Sam at every single show in the world. Spend enough time in these places and go to enough shows in these spaces, realize that each little scene is kind of like a small town, or maybe even an ecosystem. There's intimacy, there's history, everyone knows everyone, and they're all very much connected. That is like the most truthful thing I've ever heard in my life about music.
That was my nightmare, listening to that read out loud to me.
Your music scene. And especially for all of us that like we're in kind of this new era in life, where much of the book itself, a lot of these interviews that you did were kind of conducted, or the start of bands became started pre-pandemic, as the term that we say, and this really made me feel a lot of things in terms of just putting myself back in that place where. When we were all kings and queens, essentially, but but we're coming back to that. So that just a little taste of what you can get in the back later.
Places that were featured in the book, or we weren't allowed to go anywhere at all. So it's like it kind of took on a new meaning, and I think that people had even more of a desire to like talk about these places now, because all of a sudden it's that like you don't know what you've got till it's gone. Yeah. And our places are so important to us. Like music venues are so important. Like your bars, like your bar where you go is like your home, your restaurants, like the places where you go and you meet people and you know people. Like it's such an important part of community. And to all of a sudden like not have that, it's like all of a sudden it took on kind of a different sense of like urgency almost, or a sense of like, it just mattered. It was different and it mattered more, and it was an interesting thing to be talking about live music and talking about music venues when we're like, oh shit, are we going to be able to go back to these places? And some places have closed since then, unfortunately, which is always super sad. But I think turnover in general is very much a part of New York life. But seeing these places reopen, it's like been even I remember going to shows, like the first show I went to after COVID, or when, it came back after COVID, That's cute. After live music sort of came back in stages, but I remember going to the first show at, again, Our Wicked Lady, like that was like not seated, it was like standing up, unmasked. It was like the TVOD video release party, I think, for Heaven, and which is a great music video and great bands. And yeah, they were playing when I met you the first time here.
Yeah.
But to just like look around and see everyone's faces, and we were just like, everyone was just so happy, like so happy to be back, and like, and I think people are still really excited about it, and still, I really do think you appreciate it more. So it's kind of to take a long way around to answer your question, yes, it did change over time. But I think in a weird way, it feels like a more deeper, meaningful thing because,
It could be a mix of both, but was there kind of like a sad longing while you're writing and reflecting on all these memories, or was it kind of this hopeful optimism that, you know what, we had this thing and we could still have it again?
I think it's a little bit of both. And you know, so many people who I spoke to also and have spoken to have been around the scene for like far longer than I have. And you know, there's so many places that they wanted to talk about had already closed like before COVID for other reasons, because it's hard for places to stay around in New York. And so, you know, there was like that sense of like retroactive FOMO. I feel like I was like, shit, I should have gotten here earlier, you know? But yeah, I think always what really touched me is just, and that came into light especially during COVID, was just like the resourcefulness of artists and just the fact that like it can't be confined to spaces. Like Manny, who's here, his project Olithios, which is amazing, check it out. Like in March 2021, they threw a streamed show and they're like, don't come find us in real life, winky face. And it was like outside at Econo Lodge, like very spaced out, like, and I was basically like, wait, but can I come find you? And I think there's like, you know, 6 people there total with bands playing, being streamed on Bandnada. And, you know, people, and Manny actually said to me, he's like, we don't know what it's gonna look like when it comes back. He's like, we're just gonna do it ourselves. Which is kind of that really DIY ethos and sums up what artists here do. It's like you find a way, and it's not confined to a certain place or certain times, like, or, you know, like art knows no bounds. And it's like whether you're streaming or you're doing it on a sidewalk or in a venue or whatever, it's like, you know, people make it happen. And I'm so, again, so like incredibly impressed and touched and like blown away continuously by like the like spirit here. And now I'm gonna cry. More than anything, I've said it to a bunch of you here, I was like, this has given me such like or close to understanding like what artists go through making an album or something. I'm like, shit takes a long time and it's like a very vulnerable experience, and then it comes out and like I felt like I was gonna throw up all day today. I texted Nick from Atlas Engine, he was playing after this, and I was like, is that normal? He's like, yeah. It's totally normal. I was like, okay, perfect.
Shout out to Nick, who his band Atlas Engine is performing after this, so please stick around for Atlas Engine. Their merch is also buy the books, which everyone here will buy, or else I'm gonna find you. Towards, I guess, I'll say this. Was there any places, because there are so many things here, I'm from New York, and a lot of places I'm like, yeah, you caught that, or, oh, I've heard of that place. There's a lot of places here I've never heard of, and then I went to after reading these, I'm like, fuck, you got it spot on, and now this is my new favorite place. Remember once we went to the Crown Inn together for your roommate's birthday.
Yeah, Emma.
My God, there she is. What a great time. Did you discover any new places here that have become like new haunts for you, or just totally kind of, you know, open your eyes about, you know, the larger Brooklyn expanse?
You know, it's so bad because it's like, I want to be able to be like, yes, I've been to every single place. I almost lied and said I had. No, you know, it's funny. It's like, I feel like we are all kind of creatures of habit. So it's like, you know, you find your bars and your venues that you love where people know you or you know people. And it's kind of hard to break away from that sometimes. But like, it did make me want to go to so many places. I'm like, okay, it's on the list, But just such a wide array of places. And again, like the passion with which people speak about the places that they love, you know, it's like, it's a very sweet thing. And like, again, Crown Inn, which, you know, you just mentioned that, right?
Yeah.
Which is where Uber thinks I live.
Great spot in Crown Heights, yeah.
It's literally where Uber thinks I live. And that's where I met Emma, and it's given me so much. The Crown Inn given. But you know, it's like I go in there and I'm like, I have my Crown Inn bingo card, and I'm like, I know I'm gonna see the same 6 people. And I think like everyone, it's like you have your bar that's like the same situation, that's like around the corner from you, that's seen you like on your Tinder dates. And like you walk in and you're like, you know, if you got locked out of your apartment, you could camp out there for a while. And yeah.
Another thing I found in the book is that some of the artists I know, some I don't, but as they're being interviewed, as they're revealing things about these places, they were really revealing things about themselves and their personalities, because they're telling us why, you know, the roof and the 4 walls means something to them. And it all hits back on, another thing why we're all here, community, that it's kind of that, for anyone who's heard of Cheers, it's like you want to go where everyone knows your name. That places like, St. Vitus, Our Wicked Lady, Arlene's Grocery too, of course. These are places. Shameless plug. These are.
We're getting there.
We're getting there. Yeah. This is, now you know I'm here, guys. These are cultural centers. They're not just venues. They're not just bars. They're not just places to eat. These are things that we now appreciate more than ever. After all we've been through, these are cultural community centers where we can engage one another, and they become home. Because New York City, our apartments, these are holding places for our clothes, our gear, our where we shower, which hopefully most people shower, but not all. Not everyone in Brooklyn.
Occasionally.
These are the homes. These are where we have our friends. This is the family we create. So that's exactly what I got out of this book. And so I might cry now. So let's just cry on stage together.
Everyone cries.
Everyone cries.
I'm pro crying.
This is actually an adult emo event, so let's. All right, we're gonna do My Chemical Romance songs after this.
Nick, you're gonna need to rework your set.
Is there a particular part in here that was a really favorite section for you to write, where you just wrote it quickly and it just came to you?
I mean, I think just like so it's broken up kind of by types of places, like bars, restaurants, outside, this and that. And then within that, there's chapters that are based around theme. But I think like the live music one is obviously like the most fun to write, and the one that like really means the most to me, and was the most fun to like research. I'd be like, shit, I need to write in the morning. I'd be like, ooh, but this is research. I can go out. And a lot of the stories made it into the book. But yeah, I mean, I think all these places, there's so many different types of places in Brooklyn, and just because you're in a band doesn't mean you're always at a music venue, and just because you work in music doesn't mean you're always in a music venue. But that's what we love, and I think like that passion comes through, especially when we're talking about venues and talking about DIY spaces. I think particularly, it's like that's where it happens. We're all here because of music. So those spaces, especially, that was where kind of like everything just came. I was like, yeah, just like really.
Yeah. And I want to talk about the audience for the book, right? Well, this is an audience for the book, but in the audience in terms of when you're writing this, a lot of authors say like they have an audience in mind, whether it's an actual audience or a certain demographic or a certain community or just one person or themselves. Did you have a specific audience in mind? Was it the younger version of Sam? Was it a parent, family, best friend, roommate? Was it me? Did you write this for me?
Yeah.
It was written for me, guys.
Yes.
Yeah. Or was it just the local music community and just musicians? Like, was there someone in mind?
Yeah.
For all of you, this book was written for all of you, which is, once again, they're being sold at the back. So just next to the Atlas Engine merchandise also.
I mean, like truly, it sounds like such a soundbite, and it sounds like such a tagline, and it kind of is, but it's also because it's true. It really is like a love letter to Brooklyn by bands and a love letter to Brooklyn bands by me. And like I've gotten so corny lately, but like I fucking mean it. Like this community,
it's called emotions. It's just emotions.
This community means really like it's the most important thing to me, and I've met like the most incredible people. I've had the most incredible experiences, and I am so grateful. So like as I was writing it, I was like, it really is like I just want to do this community justice, and like really like I owe so much to y'all, and I just hope that the love comes across, but it truly is just for our scene.
We're not done yet, but you have to clap for Sam for that. That's fucking God, you make me feel and believe so many things. This is why I just need
Barbara Walters over here.
So tell me. These also just, as they say, absolutely slap.
As they used to say.
What truly makes these places remarkable are the individuals who choose to spend time inside them. It's the passionate people who are booking and bartending, in the booth and behind the bar, in the crowd and on the stage. Those who opt for nightlife over Netflix and who show up to create, facilitate, and enjoy art all year round. No matter the venue, no matter the genre, music fans get up and go out to these spaces for the same reason, to enjoy the collective experience of being captivated by the music, enthralled by the artist, and 100% absorbed in the action. My face is tingling. My face is,
I think I blacked out.
I hope.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you. Jesus Christ. Part of me really hopes that there is going to be some kid in high school that picks up this book either now or 2 years from now or 10 years from now or 30 years from now and reads about this and is
Books aren't going to exist in 30 years. I'm just kidding, I'll let you word. Books are
on the Amazon Uber Kindle.
Yes. It's all going to be digital, implanted.
I want
I'm just kidding.
someone.
I'm sorry.
I want someone that's super, like, because I wish I had this book when I was young to inspire me to go start a band or get involved in knowing that there's a community, knowing that that's out there. Because, growing up, it's all about self-identification, finding yourself, finding your tribe. And right now, this is a representation. We are a bunch of people gathered in a space where we couldn't gather not too long ago in the rain to support a great fucking person.
Thank you.
An amazing person. And this amazing double platinum album of, these are the lyrics to these are the truest lyrics to my heart right here. So I'm probably gonna get a back tattoo, just all the entire book. You just read it on my back.
That isn't where we are, so it's good.
I just want to stay here and don't go to work tomorrow. For me, it was also interesting in terms of, what do you think comes after this book for you? I'm not saying I'm not saying New York Times and stuff like that, but I'm just saying, you just wrote a cultural moment. Put this, actually, did you have any expectations for the book? We kind of touched on this, but what did you think this was going to be, and did it turn out that way?
Oh man, I don't even know. I was like,
it's either I'm asking good questions.
I know, I'm looking back at it and I'm like, did I write this? Where am I? This is where I park my car. I don't know. I mean, I just am kind of taking. I'm not a planner. I kind of just do things that come up and as they feel good and just go with it. And I feel just by virtue of going to shows and meeting people and who are doing cool shit, it's just getting involved in everyone else's cool shit. Being can I please help you with your cool stuff? But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It turns out, I mean, you tell me, actually. Let me know how it is. I think, and I also am sure that this is something that artists can relate to probably, where once something comes out, you're like, do I like that? But on to the next one.
That was another question I had in mind, is that because a lot of this content you did have, beforehand from prior interviews for Bands BK, but a lot of it also was new during the process, right? You were seeking out and acquiring, hey, I'm going to do these interviews now to write this book. Were you surprised with the not just the feedback, but the outpouring of support it looks like you got in here? Because you just encompassed an entire culture. It seems like people were very eager to lend their voices to this and support you. Were you surprised by that at all?
Yeah, I was super touched. It was really incredibly touching. And again, this literally would not exist without the contributions of all the bands who participated. And again, so many of you who are here tonight, so thank you so much. Yeah, it wouldn't be here without artists. In a sense, it is a group project. that, you know, I'm gonna get the A on, or C- or somewhere in that, you know. But like, it really was a group effort, and you know, I kind of pulled it together. But I'm really thankful for everyone's contributions, and yeah, I keep like losing that train of thought. I'm like, like, but yeah, I'm just gonna keep thanking people.
Takeaway, if you have it, what's the biggest takeaway after not just writing, but the entire experience about reflecting on everything that's happened, grabbing a hold of this, you know, collection of identities and thoughts and just ideologies? What is your biggest takeaway after this book, after you finished, other than, oh, fuck, thank God it's done?
Yeah, like, shit, you have to read it now? No, I mean, I think just the sense of community is so real. And, you know, I keep mentioning, I keep mentioning this to people, and I keep saying it in every, like, circumstance I can, but, like, I think I'm continuously just, like, blown away by, like, artists, again, artist resourcefulness and like the creativity and the community. So it's kind of just the whole community as a whole, and like people's relations to people. And there really is, I think, and I can only speak to my role within it, not as a musician. I can only speak for like the last 6 years that I've been here, but like it seems like such an uplift, like supportive community, and it seems like a real like rising tide situation where everyone wants to like lift each other up. And you know, like during COVID, for example, when artists like not only lost the ability to do what they love most, and you know, couldn't perform, couldn't tour, but also in many cases lost their jobs, you know, couldn't, you know, were worrying about paying the rent. It's like everyone just kept creating and just got creative, and like, but beyond doing it for themselves, we're doing it for other people. You know, it's like creating comps for mutual aid, and you know, doing like live streams for social justice and raising money for venues. And so just like that whole element of people looking out for each other was just a theme that's come through so strong in the last, you know, however long I've been doing this. And, you know, I don't know, I there's just some very talented people, but also like very, very good people. Awesome. And so I hope that comes through. Yeah. And I just got a review of this website, and they were talking about like how I like gush a lot, and I'm like, yeah, that tracks.
Listen, it's one of the...
Like, she gushes and she romanticizes. And I was like, yeah, but in a nice way.
That is one of the most amazing qualities about her. There is no one in the scene that's more genuine, more excited and enthusiastic, and that is what this is about.
Spreadsheets and enthusiasm, baby.
Is that going to be the second book?
Spreadsheets and enthusiasm.
This level of that, you know, it's taken off in such a way where, like, you know, started as a blog, to classifieds, to reviews, to insightful interviews, to an entire book, to you managing and, you know, booking. And you wear so many hats, and you do all of it superbly. What do you see next for Bands BK? Where do you see Sam Sumpter in the next 5 years? That's I hate the 5-year thing. I know. As soon as I said it, I fucked it up. I was like, this is why I'm a terrible date, guys. This is why I'm single. Also, shame.
Are you interviewing me for a job right now too? My flaw is I just care too much. Nah, I really don't know what's next. I just like want to keep, like, I'm really enjoying everything, and I just want to keep doing it in some capacity. So, you know, just kind of rolling with it, and, you know, just want to do more cool shit. Yeah. Do more cool stuff with cool people. But yeah, in the immediate future, yeah, come to the next shows, come to the book release shows.
Yeah. Can we list those off again? Where I hear that if you say something at least 3 times, then that's the 3rd time. That's when you kind of get it solidified in your head. So let's break down the shows.
Here.
There we go.
I thought the rule was 300. That's why I was posting so much about it.
She had to remind me a couple times. Rich, you know you have to be here, right? I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, Our Wicked Lady on September 17th. Got 13 bands from 1:30 p.m. to 4 a.m. I got carried away. And then a Econo Lodge on October 8th, and I'm going to be doing something with So Far Sounds, like a little intimate show as well, which I'm hyped for. But yeah. And everything at Arlene's, obviously.
Everything at Arlene's is amazing and excellent. And St. Vitus, too, because...
Yeah. Can we shout out St. Vitus really quick? Thank you.
Shout out. Got Jeff in the back. Thank you so much.
And thank you for letting me completely disregard this timeline. Punk rock time.
This is also the most metal show of all time right now. This is pretty metal. You know what? I'm just going to let you guys read it. I'm just going to let you guys read it. If I miss anything that you're like, Rich, you fucking should have mentioned this, I'm like, well, I made sure to make sure that you read it first. So let's do a little Q&A. I will, let's
raise your hand.
Raise your hand and politely ask a question, and then Sam will answer it.
Or not politely, that's optional.
Okay, I'm seeing a nice gentleman in the front here. Also, shout out
Shark Swimmer.
Justin from Shark Swimmer, fucking amazing, love his band. So also follow Shark Swimmer.
I know, I'm just gonna shout out bands individually as they're on time. Yeah. Also playing at Our Wicked Lady on September 17th.
Hell yeah. I was just curious, I got a sticker at the bar I worked at. I was like, Man's BK, what's that? This girl seems awesome, but I don't know what it is. Like, what's the very first band that you like signed on to like do some sort of feature with?
Yeah.
Well,
everyone heard that, right? Or should I just pass them? Everyone hears that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Repeat.
Good projecting.
Just repeat. That what was the first band that she interacted with?
That you covered, I guess.
That you covered for this. Mm.
Well, he's Australian and didn't live here, so that didn't make much sense. No, it was through So Far Sounds, a really great artist named Jeremy Neal, who was like the sweetest person in the world, and who is not here because he lives in Australia. But he was here like on a grant for a project and was staying in an Airbnb in Bushwick, and I was just like, I loved his music and he was so awesome, and I was like, I just wanted to like find a way to like learn more about him and spend more time with him, and hopefully like in some capacity promote him, because that's why I do this. And like, oh, I love your music. Like, I just want to help. Like, how can I help? Like, how can I, like get more people to listen to this record or whatever. And but it was kind of like he was here for such a limited period of time. But that's kind of like when you do more stuff. Like, when you have like a limited amount of time to be somewhere and do something, you actually get out there and do things versus like, I haven't gone to MoMA since I've been here, and I've been here 6 years. Like, you know what I mean?
They don't throw rock shows there. Yes.
So yeah, that was the first one, and he's,
They did craft work.
I stand corrected.
Yeah.
Craft work.
PS1 too, right? All that. They do cool stuff there, yeah.
They might do Arlene's craft
It's in
work.
Manhattan, though, so I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. Bands do Manhattan next. No, but yeah, so that was the first one, and it was just like a really fun thing. I used to actually, back in the day, go meet artists and do them in real life, and then transcribe. And it was a process, but it was really more fun to like go, have a drink with an artist in their favorite bar and do that. So if anyone wants to get a drink later and be interviewed, let me know.
Book number 2.
Yeah, check out Jeremy Neal though. Really, really great.
Very good. Okay, great, awesome, Justin. Thanks for that question. Sweet. Do we have any more? No one has.
Oh.
Okay, there we go. Everyone's like, we're friendly. Actually, Sam, you pick out the people, by the way, because like sometimes. Yeah.
Is that a Samuel Pinson in there from Mary Shelley, from the best band in Brooklyn, Mary Shelley?
Mary Shelley.
No bias.
Topic that you were like dying to cover, but just you had to like, you couldn't write any more. They gave you a deadline. Like, I wish I could have covered this topic, but I couldn't.
I don't know if it was so much topics, but bands. Like, I keep meeting bands that I love. I'm like, shit, I wish I met you like a year ago, like 2 Man Giant Squid. Mitch is here, and I like tell him like, every time I introduce him to someone, I'm like, put up my favorite EP of the year, it's so good. And so every time I like meet a new band, I'm like, God damn it, like I wish I just met you a little sooner. So yeah, less about the topics and more just about, more artists that I'm excited about that, I want to find a way to, I wish I could have squeezed in. But Ben, if you want to do a second book, just let me know. Is that a yes? Is that a... No,
Sophomore album.
Yeah,
there we go.
Yeah, exactly. Sophomore, yeah. I hear those always go well.
So awesome question. Anybody else? Who else? There's.
Yeah, I've got a question.
All right, right there.
Hi, Mike.
Sam, now that you're a big-time New York superstar, do you still have love for Canadian bands, man?
Bands do Canada.
Okay, for shows. So apologies, St. Vitus. You've tried, and I keep not going. I will always have love for our friendly neighbors to the north. And if anyone here is single and Canadian, please let me know. That was a dodge.
This is literally.
Yes, Canada bans forever.
This is a thinly veiled dating dating event for
Is
me
it
and Sam.
everything?
We're like, we're both single. Just saying. Find us at the back. So awesome.
I'm just writing my phone number in everyone's book.
What a power move! Fucking love that. I think.
Hey, Elkie. Oh, by the way, also shout out to Glam Glare, which is a really great outlet that covers music. Elkie Oliver.
Thanks so much, Sam, and congratulations once again. I mean, this is so amazing, and as you pointed out, that you're doing it for a while already. So we were following along with Bands to Brooklyn, what you're doing, and I was so excited when I heard that Lit Right Press is doing an actual book. So, but why I wanted to ask you something, because you know, you said, thanks to that question, that you wish you would have met some bands before and you have only met them now. I think, you know, I mean, the second volume is on the table, and maybe you're also branching out. And I mean, Bands to Brooklyn is your brand, you know, but I can also see a wider brand. You know, you mentioned this Australian German before, so just, you know.
Yeah, it's got to be alliterative though. It's gonna be like Bands do Berlin or Baltimore.
Down for that.
Yeah.
Musicians do Memphis.
Oh, wow. And shout out to Kyle who came up with the name for the set list, the Bands BK newsletter. Please subscribe.
Yeah, so here we go.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I
Keep on going.
know. Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah. Thank you, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But I mean, I'm definitely not like. I mean, I just love New York so much. But yeah, I think there's definitely like an opportunity, and like obviously that was like somewhat in my head, in the back of the mind. It's like, oh, like this could be like easily done in other cities, but it would kind of require someone who knows the scene there and knows the community there. Like I wouldn't try to just like virtually drop in on like a random city and be like, okay, I'm just gonna see you as like the most like Instagram followers here, and like, you know. So it would definitely require like someone who's familiar with it, because I think that's kind of what it's all about, is like, you know, the community and the relationships and everything.
Book. It's okay that you missed a couple morning pages.
I do love the morning pages. Sorry, feelings.
Awesome. Great question. Oh yes,
Meredith.
Also, from Cultura and Work Wife.
Meredith just dropped a really incredible song called Ride Ride with a really great music video that some people here are in as well. I'm just going to shout out everyone.
Sorry, we're just like, now we're going to go. She's like super cool. She just toured with Anthony Green and stuff. And I was just like, so what was tour like? She's like, it's cool. I'm like, oh my God, you're so cool. Oh my God. Anyway, so Meredith, yes, please.
Okay, so my question is like, as someone who's like tried to book tours before, when you find someone like Sam running a local music blog, you feel like you've like hit the jackpot, because you all of a sudden figure out like all the cool local bands, and you like all of a sudden have like, you've like taken this rock and like then you see everything underneath, you know what I mean? But I guess I was wondering from you, Sam, like have you met people in other cities that are sort of like, who would be like your peers, who's like, you know, like the U in like Columbus, or like the U in like who are these people? They're so hard to find sometimes. So I was just curious if you've ever met like anyone like that.
They're all named Sam.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to hang out with them. I don't know. And
it's okay if the answer is no.
Not yet. I was like, right, yeah. I can't think of anyone specifically, but again, this is, you know, everything I do is here pretty much, so I just like really haven't been reaching out so much. I will say that like Do 512 in Austin is like an incredible resource and an incredible site. And like I think they have like 13 outposts. There's a Do NYC as well. But I wrote for them like 7 years ago or something. So I think like that like element of supporting local music, and they do really great stuff during South by and like around the year. But I can't think of any specific individual that I personally know, but I would like to. Because like
You're gonna run into them. Their name's gonna be like Jam Jump.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, Bizarro Sam. Yes, exactly. There can only be one.
Another band that you want to interview super, super badly. Who's one band that you would love to interview, like, for the next, or for now?
Oh.
Juicy question. Love it.
I don't know. I'm kind of like get a little. It's like don't meet your heroes, right? Like get a little. I will say just like in terms of it. It's so bad because like 99% of what I listen to is like local music and is bands from like our bands from Brooklyn. That's like everything I do. So people are like I get in the radio or I get visit my parents and I'm like in the car and I'm like they know more about like music right now than I do. They're like they're listening to Alt Nation and they're like, oh, I really like this band, and I'm like, who? But yeah, I mean, one of my favorite bands just forever is Phoenix. So I guess that would like so good. I think they're actually playing Radio City Music Hall. Yes, dude, I think I'm gonna go. Diana, where are you? Let's go. But yeah, so I mean, maybe them. Yeah. So, but I don't know. I interviewed like Kim from Nat and Kim like back in the day, which is like really sick. And but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, this is like what I do, and these are two I love, so it's kind of like.
Nice one. Okay, who? I think I saw a couple more hands going up. In the back, yeah.
That closed that you like usually wanted to feature but couldn't?
You know, there was a lot that like I think had closed like before I started. Like everyone always talks about Shea Stadium, and I'm like so sad. I miss that. And like Death by Audio, and like again, I kind of mentioned like that retroactive FOMO, where I'm like, shit. Again, if I just gotten here a little sooner. So I think there's a lot of that. And then there were some places that closed kind of during, you know, in the last 2 years. Like shout out to Pet Rescue, which was an incredible DIY space, and that sadly ended. Alphaville is back, which is sick. But I will say that I was like writing this, and then like I was like, this book needs to come out before places kept closing. I was like, shit. I was like, places are closing. A couple bands broke up. I was like, no one's allowed to change anything until this book comes out. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think, you know, again, it's just like it really is at its core. It's like such a time capsule, and I was like trying to come to terms with that. It's like, you know, this is really a snapshot of the scene during, you know, 2018 to 2021, basically. So yeah, you know, I really am sad I never got to Much More. It seems like a sick spot too. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Much More is gone.
I don't think, is it? I don't think
no idea.
I think it's kind of like in limbo right now.
Oh, okay. All right.
I don't know. But I feel like,
the more
is
you
it
know.
open? We're all going afterwards. We'll find out.
Were too big that you were a fan of, that you were kind of like, this doesn't fit the ethos of the book?
Awake.
You know, I was kind of like, admittedly a little haphazard in my approach initially. It's like I did, you know, I had like, it was kind of a combination of stuff that I'd done and then having like kind of like an open call for artists, and then I did seek out some artists. Like, I think like I got like I interviewed the guy from Jukebox the Ghost, so I'm like, that's not exactly like super local, but he lives here. So I mean, there's kind of like a mix of stuff like that. But I think like I started doing a little outreach like that, and then kind of pulled back because I think it's just easier to write kind of about, you know, the people that are more, you know, in our world and in our places. I will say that one thing that was like super surreal. Do y'all know Savoir Adore?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Incredible band. Like I used to listen to the song like 10 years ago. The song Dreamers came out, and like back in Austin, I was like back when I still knew how to drive. I was like driving around, listening to that song like on repeat, and like, you know, and they were playing. I think they played Webster Hall and like all this other stuff. That song is like 10 million streams or something at this point. And that felt like a very big band to me. And then before this blog even like existed, I like reached out to him and I was like, could I interview you? And again, this blog did not even exist. I was like, I just had this idea, and he like met me at a bar, like never, and just hung out with me and let me interview him. And it was like, which was so cool. So, something like that was really like a pinch myself type of thing. Yeah, I don't know. It's like I think it's more interesting to think about like the bands that we know right now and like seeing their growth and seeing like them get bigger and sensing that momentum. That's really cool. It's like, in 1 year, who's going to be like the band that's like headlining Governor's Ball? And I'm like, oh shit, they're the bands that became booked. Yeah.
All of you guys.
Yeah.
You gotta give Sam VIP tickets, okay, guys?
Get up.
Awesome, guys. You guys are a really smart, engaging audience. My God, I love these guys. We should all hang out after it and go get Sam's book together, which is also near the Alice Engine merchandise.
Yes.
No shame.
Speaking of, is it time?
Speaking of, yeah. How are we doing, guys?
I'm like, let's get actual musicians up here.
We didn't know this is actually like a 2-hour set for us.
Yeah, exactly. My set list is through. Yeah.
You think do like a double encore? Any more questions before we wrap? Okay, good. Yeah.
Zachary.
Sam, what's a motivation when you go into an interview?
Usually, like, oh shit, I should have prepared more. I think that they're generally, I have like the classic questions like that I'm gonna ask, and like there's the things that I'm like really interested in. Like I love knowing, and I think this is just by virtue of like I am so like amazed by bands, and I'm so like jealous I'm not in a band, and I'm so like want to know like what happens behind the scenes. So I love knowing about like people's like rituals. Like I'm like, oh, what's on your writer? I'm like, tell me all like the behind the scenes stuff, so stuff like that. And then like trying to find things basically that they're doing that I can promote and kind of like back end into that. But yeah, a lot of times that I do interviews these days, it's often with like people that are my friends. So I'm like, much like this, we're just like, let's just go like kick it on stage or kick it wherever, and like and just like have a conversation, which I think hopefully sometimes works.
Oh yeah. Also, thanks for having me, Sam.
Yeah.
This is really awesome.
Thank you. Also, shout out to Rich. Thank you so much. Bloodless Management for all your Arlene's booking needs. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I felt a lot less, again, like throwing up while you would be next to me on stage. So that's the goal.
Even when Sam mentioned that, I said, "Hey, do you mind if you just I gave you like a pre-sale copy of the book to read and check out?" I was like, "Yes, please, I want to read it right now." And this is just one of the most enjoyable things that I finished it so quickly, and I just being able to reread parts and kind of just having those snapshots and almost like fuzzy Polaroids and mental imagery of just dark bars, loud venues, bits of humor.
Yes. I'm just speaking of just support. So thank you so much for your support. And then also, I just want to give a shout out to Mike from Nihilastros, who's the most supportive person in this entire
Mike.
And I love so much. And
I love you, Mike.
And I think like it just kind of epitomizes like the support that is in this community and how much people care about each other. And like you doing this, like Nick playing, Alice Engine playing this. It's truly like I love doing the supporting, but it's also been like a really cool experience to be supported. So I thank you all very much for coming.
Thank you guys again.
And one more time, thank you so much to Ben at Lit Riot Press, and thank you to St. Vitus, and thank you to Word Bookstore, Stephen. I really appreciate it.
Okay, and